Hey man, what's your ideology?
None.
You're
I
the
say
enlightened centrist,
I, I,
aren't
I
you?
say we throw it all in the water.
Throw it all. So,
Just
what is left if we throw it all in the water? What do we have left?
we have food and
I have
community.
food.
Yeah, see? Do you need philosophy to drink that wine and eat that bread?
I don't know.
Probably not.
Probably not.
So, that's what I think.
So, are you an egalitarian or a utilitarian?
I don't know, probably more utilitarian. You're smarter than me. I need you to guide me. I'm not a centrist. I'm just, maybe you could call me maybe an absurdist.
Damn, bro, that's pretty based, I'd say. So,
Honk pilled. I was gonna ask. So I haven't found. You seem like you're educated and smart on this. I haven't been able to define my own philosophical stance.
Mhm.
And instead of being lazy and saying, I don't have one, I realize underneath I do. I just need to define it. And because I'm kind of a verbal person, I think through conversation this could come out easier
Okay.
than it would through, because I have done research on philosophy and I can't place myself anywhere. That's why I kind of feel absurd about it. So
I have to be
if
real
you
with you,
can,
man. The more I look into this stuff, the less I feel like I know about it.
yeah.
I've seen like hundreds of debates about this thing, but it's just how do I even know any of this? I have no idea, man. So
Okay.
how to solve the trolley problem? The
The
trolley
trolley
problem.
problem.
Yeah.
Okay. So let me lay it out so that I explain to you if I'm understanding it correctly, right? So there's a trolley speeding down rail.
Yeah.
I have the volition to diverge the path to the left, where 3 individuals will be fatally killed, or 1 individual on the untampered. So if I don't touch it, 1 individual dies.
Nah, I think it's the other way.
The other way. So I can go left, and I have always been confused by that problem because I don't see the problem. I think just kill 1 person over 3 people. Does that make sense? I mean, you don't want to kill anyone, but then I say use your volition to kill 1 person over 3. And if you weren't there to see and 3 people died, then that wasn't your fault. But if you were to see 3 and you didn't diverge into 1, I would say that's potentially your fault.
So you would say that if you do nothing and 3 people die, that you are to blame. If you had the power to save them by killing 1 person, you are to blame for their death. But if you divert it and kill 1 person, you are not to be blamed for that person's death. Is that correct?
I wouldn't say you wouldn't be blamed for that person's. That's okay. Now I see it. That's dirty.
That's dirty.
I would say if you kill the 1 person, you are not to blame. Yeah, I guess because the rails were gonna kill someone or something.
That is the intuitive answer. I can't speak anymore. I've been at this for
So it's okay.
all day.
I can.
So let's switch up the analogy. There's 1 person, perfectly healthy, happy guy, and then there's 3 people who are very sick. And if you kill this person, it just so happens that you can harvest their organs and put them into these 3 people, and they will be fine. So now, if you do nothing, these 3 die. So what do you want to do?
Well, my intuition with problems like these, and I think most people's, is to dig to the next level and ask, who's the most educated, who has the biggest family, who has the most important job, has lived the happiest life, who's lived the most difficult life. So do I have the option to expand on those, or do I have to just use the knowledge you've given me?
Well, we can go both ways.
Okay.
But we can go both ways at the same time. Okay, get this. They're quadruplets who do identical jobs and have identical lives.
So they are the same. We're eliminating the concept of value based on.
Yeah.
Okay. I would say 3 lives. Man, can I take a second to think about it?
Yeah, sure. We can take all the time you need, man. I got time. If it makes you feel any better, I don't have an answer.
yeah. I mean, but I'm trying to give you something to judge me on. So I would say I would take the closest description is the route of nature. So the healthy one is healthy for a reason thus far, and so let the 3 die for the one healthy one. Because, well, the 3 unhealthy are unhealthy because of some reason. Maybe it wasn't their fault, but something made them. It made it necessary for them to have need new organs. And meanwhile, 1 had good genetics or a healthy lifestyle that led them to that point, and they will likely continue that habit of a healthy lifestyle.
Okay, so
I say, don't.
Are you familiar with logical fallacies?
Yes.
Have you heard of? I'm not sure if this is it. It might be. It sounds like appeal to nature logical fallacy.
Where you orient because nature is right, then it's right. Yeah.
It could be a moral system based on worshipping nature, but wanting to everything be, nature based. How nature sets it, that's how it should be. You could have that philosophy. That's fine. But yeah.
But I don't. That's the thing. I don't agree entirely. So an appeal to nature isn't my entire philosophy.
Yeah. Then that's interesting because. Yeah, I know these are hard problems, man.
Yeah, I mean, as long as it's fun for you to talk about.
Yeah,
if you fun. Enjoy it.
So, what else did you talk about here about philosophy?
This is actually the first time I'm talking about philosophy on here. I took my first philosophy class, and the thing is, when I was young, I liked philosophy because I kind of had my own made up philosophy. Not made up, but it was like philosophy where if I ran into a difficult problem, I could kind of just ignore it, and I had my own biases. And then when I took my philosophy class, it became almost like it just annoyed me because it's wonderful, asking all the questions and assuming if you even know what you know, and the metaphysics, that's all good, but like I kind of feel like Athens and philosophy is Socrates, and I'm like, well, all you're doing is frustrating people. you're tarnishing the youth. You're making the youth, like it's just making people mad. I don't think it's doing anything that valuable. I mean, maybe it probably is, and I don't know. But we have science and mathematics, and I understand they are extended forms of philosophy, but philosophy just seems to really frustrate people. I mean, and it takes people who could probably live simple lives that maybe aren't very inspiring, and kind of makes them live lives that are a little more abstract and a little more abnormal or queer, because now they have philosophy to so that's my first actual exposure to philosophy. It's not too interesting, but it's mine.
Okay, so what kind of stuff do they teach you in class about philosophy? I never took philosophy class.
Okay, so we started out with metaphysics and the two other branches. So there's the one Descartes touched on. That's the one about what you know if you know what you know. And Keynes, I forgot what that's called entirely. And then there's the final one, which is ethics. What is right? What's not right? Morals. And then we pretty much expanded on those three. So we started out with, just historically, basically. We went through the history. It was very history oriented. We worked our ways from very early metaphysics, very early ethics, and the other one I forgot the name of. And the class involved just discussions. But that's the thing about like a philosophy professor is that the thing about as much as he wanted to encourage discussions, philosophers are always looking for logical fallacies. They're always looking out for that. And it always feels like they've gotten to the end of a conversation way before you have. So the professor was very almost like pretentious, even though he wanted us to have conversation about philosophy. But it was very history driven, I would say. Like the chronology of the class was based on history, and we would read about, it would go by individual. There was a focus on Bertrand Russell. And he would constantly mention how philosophy isn't very different from mathematics and science. Pretty much as you would imagine, like maybe an English class, or a language class, if you've taken, or a language arts class, not a language class. Yeah.
Interesting. Well, did you have any practical, like did you ever do debates or something like that in class? Or
I think because it was online, it wasn't much debate. Yeah, so not a lot of practical philosophy. As much as I think that would be fun, but like that's the thing. Like something about rhetoric. It's like you have debate. You have like discrete logical, debate, and then you have rhetoric, which is like the influence of language, emotion, and ethos, and it's like a whole other monster, which just wavers the data even more.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but no, I wish we had debates.
Damn.
Yeah.
Well, we got YouTube for this. There's all kinds of debates.
Yeah. Yeah, go ahead.
No, you go for you.
Who do you like look up to in philosophy? Who do you watch on YouTube?
Oh wow, I don't think that I have some particular personalities that I guess I started off watching Matt Dillahunty, who he's the guy from Atheist Experience or some, yeah, I think that's the name of the show, and he always debated people and introduced them to the process of logic, logical fallacy, and epistemology, and yeah, that's how I learned these things. So then I sort of switched to watching more politics and various other problems. And when I looked at the root of it all, there were these core ideological issues of wanting more equality versus wanting more utility and things like that. So yeah, it was interesting. Some other YouTubers I watch are Destiny and I forget what the channel names are, but yeah, that's basically where I come from on these topics.
Okay. Yeah, I would say that's a very legitimate route in philosophy, at least modern philosophy. I think that's interesting that you followed on that. What is your? I'll throw away a hot one. What is your idea on faith and
That's what
God?
I wanted to ask you.
Yeah. Okay.
I
Sounds always fun.
Yeah, I used to be religious when I was young. I was younger than I am now, if you could call me young anymore. I got disenfranchised, sort of, especially when I started consuming content from the internet and watching these debates. It was like just shattered into pieces of everything
entirely.
I had. Thought that
Yeah.
I knew.
Okay.
So I'm mostly an atheist now. I'm not saying that I know that there's no stuff after you die. But yeah, as far as having a belief in existence of deities, I have none at this moment. Yeah,
Okay.
I've been watching sort of a lot of spiritual stuff, like if you know Sadhguru or Eckhart Tolle.
Yeah, yeah,
I've been
yeah.
watching a lot of those content, especially when I went through periods of depression and things like that. It helped me
Yeah,
a lot.
those can be very helpful. Yeah,
Yeah, and
very helpful.
I started meditating. I did some, consciousness altering experiments with drugs and with
Okay.
um, astral projection and things like that. And I had some very interesting experiences that I really cannot describe with words. So
You can just yeah.
if there is something, I don't think that we can right now philosophize too qualitatively about it. That's
Yeah,
how I see it. Yeah. What do you think about
yeah,
these things?
yeah. You brought it to an interesting point of I was recently so one thing we talked about was Descartes, and Descartes did a he actually had a logical problem when there was a large problem about the body and the mind and whether they're connected, and just simply asking that question opens a can of worms. And what's interesting is when you consume these substances, did you feel as though the mind had become more of a physical entity like the rest of your body, or more like an extended meta sort of like a spiritual or almost non-physical, non-material substance? And just any general experience, any ideas around that you can talk about.
Okay, so I did have some experiences where I felt like a meat puppet, like a lump of meat and bones, and just I don't, I'm not sure, but I did also have experiences that I was basically becoming whatever I want, floating everywhere, all over the place, and becoming everything and things like that. I didn't have this cone vision of 120 degrees. I had 360-degree vision in all directions, and basically I was like, I felt like, when your hand goes numb and you
Like
feel those
suspended,
tingles.
dissociated.
I felt like I was those tingles. I felt like that was that I felt
Yeah,
that was how I felt myself, and
yeah,
I felt like a bubble of energy, just like
but yeah,
when
yeah.
yeah, it's interesting. It's really interesting. It's hard to
It,
describe.
it yeah, it absolutely is. Yeah, that state, reaching that state, I think is pretty wonderful. Whether it's through meditation or substance, I've never reached it with meditation or substance, but it's something I can very easily imagine, because that is what the mind feels like a lot. I think musically, when music is very exciting or enjoyable for me, I can almost feel a state like that. But it's interesting that you say that. Yeah. Did you? I imagine you used some dissociatives when you felt like you were the buzzing tingles around you. Something
uh,
like ketamine or nitrous oxide.
that part happened mostly. Okay, I had these two techniques that I tried. One of them was uh, trying out of body experiences through intentional astral projection and intentional dissociation from the body, like meditation practice. Another was fainting on purpose. There's something you can do with
Yeah,
your
where
body
you
to.
breathe.
Yeah,
Is it
yeah.
the? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Did you try that?
I when I was younger, I played with it, but I've never
Yeah.
succeeded, or I stopped. Yeah, but what? How do you do it, and what did you do? What was it like?
It's okay. The one time I just blanked out and just saw this red, green, and blue dots all over the place, and I saw some kids staring at me and talking
Ah,
about in a language I didn't understand. And then the image kept shaking, and it sort of stabilized, and sort of resolution got better. And then I noticed that it was my friends who are actually like 10 years older than the entities I saw for some reason, and they
wow.
were speaking my language actually, and they were like, damn, dude, sorry, I didn't think you were going to flop on the floor like that. I would have caught you. But I fell to the ground and hit my head. I could have had
Oh.
brain damage, but yeah, my friends are not very reliable. I did, as far as drugs go, I tried some synthetic marijuana. We call it
Okay.
Galaxy. There's some other brands like Medbet, Rainbow, and things like that. You know,
Mm-hmm.
they sell it as room air freshener, but
Right. Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
actually
Yeah.
actually kids actually smoke it. Teens smoke it all the time. So yeah, that resulted in a really strange experience where started everything seemed more 3D than usual, and it sort of felt like a cartoon, you know. But
Mm.
yeah, and it's really hard to describe it.
Yeah. I don't
Yeah,
expect. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I became obsessed like not too long ago with consciousness and the mind, and I watched this meditation. He's not a yogi, but he went to India and he practiced a lot. Dr. Alok Kanogia, and he's also a psychologist. But he said something that the consciousness can't actually think; it can only experience. And I thought about how part of why substance use can be fascinating is because the consciousness remains stable, but it gets to observe the mind in an altered state. And I think a lot of these times why we can even have profound ideas is because the mind is in a strange state and the consciousness can just observe it. And part of I think what makes your experiences indescribable is I think it's partially because consciousness was there to watch it and the mind was being used as a vehicle to completely, do whatever it was to have these experiences. And that's probably maybe why you can't use words, because consciousness can't use thought or language. It can only experience.
That makes sense, man. I think that makes sense. That makes a
Yeah,
lot of
I
sense.
mean, it's still just an idea, but I think the yogis did a really good job with that thought. Yeah, and they also, through that train of thought, they also suggest that consciousness is a very fundamental state, just like matter and energy, and it can actually transform into another one. I think they believe that matter coalesces, or energy coalesces into matter, and consciousness coalesces into energy. And that's why I think energy is associated with meditation. And when you feel a heightened state, you feel energy. Yeah, maybe it's those two ends touching. It's very interesting stuff.
Yeah. Damn.
Yeah.
So sometimes I'm just like, staring at the mirror for like 2 hours and thinking, what the fuck am I? Why the fuck does everything look like this? Why the fuck am I like this? Why am I
Yeah.
alive? Like, how is this possible? How can this be possible? It doesn't make sense.
Yeah. 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 That's absurd. And when those kind of thoughts, when you get a strange feeling, I get that from like thinking about space, the vastness of space. It's like, oh, it's so big, but then you realize you're actually in it right now. You're a particle in that space, and then you realize you're actually an ape, because you, as an ape, you're used to associating with houses and people, when really you're in space. But it's not your job to think about space, because you're just a monkey. You're just an ape. you know
Yeah.
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 Time can also be like that, I think. What's interesting about time is, before any consciousness, between the beginning to where consciousness began, it's hard to imagine that time actually passed, because you can, why would it have to pass? It probably just zipped. Just, there was no 0 to 1. It was 1, because why would it have to pass? There was nothing to observe the time, right? And then that's why they say the universe exists because of consciousness, because consciousness observes the world has to exist. Otherwise, the world would just take a shortcut and do its thing. It wouldn't have to pass. Passage of time is dependent on consciousness. So, yeah, sorry if I'm rambling. I'm doing
it's
too abstract.
It's interesting.
Yeah, I don't mean to have you stick around.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
If you can skip it, and
There's no one else. There's no one else who's interested. So,
sorry.
can I read somewhere about this thing?
I didn't actually find this very many author or anyone. It came to me because I was reading about how the state before the Big Bang. So what caused the Big Bang? If something is in a neutral state, as neutral as before the Big Bang, why would it cause a Big Bang? Why would something neutral suddenly turn non-neutral? And what I read was that someone talked about how, so like an exponential number is some value x to the power of y, so x times x, y times, and they described that given in a neutral state, an amount of time given to, I think, some number in the billions to the power of some other number in the billions, like 11 times. They say in that span of time, there's a possibility that some quarks can flip and there's a chance. And so I thought about how absurd it is to suggest that time even passes, because why does that time have to pass? Why? Because if it's kind of crazy to think if time's absolutely nothing's there to observe it, it's irrelevant, then it doesn't really have to pass. It can just skip from 0 to 1. It doesn't have to travel from 0 to 1. And that's kind of where I started thinking about that. And then what gets really strange is when you associate it with your personal consciousness, because you're like, did anything exist before my consciousness? And it's like, well, maybe, yes. If yes, then that means other people's consciousness is reliable. So if another person's consciousness is reliable, then that means their consciousness must be related to your consciousness somehow. And if it's not related to your consciousness, then that means their consciousness isn't as valid as yours. And then you're going into solipsism, which is the idea that others aren't conscious. You're the only conscious being.
Yeah, I used to be like super paranoid about that a long time ago.
Yeah, and what's funny is you never find relief. You just learn to go.
It just gets like
it doesn't matter.
You just have to be an absurdist. Like, fuck it, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't. Yeah. Life will fool you into enjoying it. That's how I think. If you live life, it'll just trick you into maybe not enjoying, but sucks you in.
Yeah. Just shut up and be the damn monkey for the time being.
That's kind of how when we started talking about philosophy, that's kind of where I was with, because really all you can do is be a monkey. Yeah. I think we're pretending when we think we can. Maybe technology will help us extract our mind, and maybe then we're not just monkeys. But for the meantime, I think, and this goes more to politics. So I see you have. I imagine you have more of an interest in political science, but I think a lot of like the average person in the West, a lot of their philosophy is dependent on like, it's kind of like, where was I going with this? Oh yeah, people kind of treat their mind and their body as if they're a computer. Or they imagine themselves as a creature with no capacity. So like, they think they mold society in ways that are awkward, potentially dangerous. They make thoughts that are very again, like Socrates, Socrates is like, think for yourself, and it's like, is that really a good thing for people? Because you're people, you're not like a supercomputer that can handle any thought. And I think a lot of the stress that comes with the Western world is, maybe some of it at least, is that people don't realize that they have a human capacity. Like, you're limited. You're just a person. Maybe you can't ask that many questions. Maybe you can't be open to that many thoughts. Maybe you need to be a little restricted on yourself. And I think that kind of reflects like conservatism in a way. To just accept that you're not, you can't think those thoughts too long or too much.
Damn.
No. Tell me about something you're passionate about. I'm talking too much.
I don't know, man. I'm quite passionless recently.
No worries. Is it like quarantine or just life?
Yeah, a bit of everything, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah,
Just tired all the time.
I imagine. Yeah, that is tough. Do you want to talk about how you feel? Because I'm not bothered by talking about like emotion and thoughts like that. I can't solve any of your problems. I can tell you that I cannot do any, but I can listen if that makes you feel.
I don't.
Maybe.
Yeah. Thanks for the offer, but I don't think that I can really explain it in a 5 minute segment.
Yeah. No.
I just wouldn't feel fulfilled. I just wouldn't feel like I elaborated sufficiently at any point in this.
Oh, so it would bother you to feel like you haven't elaborated well enough.
Yeah.
Okay.
But thanks for the offer, man. I'm good.
Okay.
Just tired a little.
Yeah, no.
So,
Nope.
I don't know, what do you see as valuable in life? Do you seek to follow some individual shonen anime protagonist character individualism, or are you more like, let's band together, let's all be in a community and equal and share everything with each other?
I would say above all things, part of why, if you can describe me as happy, I don't know if I'm some weird thing going on. I don't know if I'm happy, but if you can call me that at all, I think mainly I have that because I'm stupid. If I'm happy at all, it's because I'm a bit stupid. But I think I'm definitely more community oriented, or at least I think it would maybe be better for people to be community oriented. But I don't think it's my place to step into another or talk to another country's culture and decide for them whether they should be more community oriented, more individualistic. Yeah, that's where I stand. What about you?
I guess I can see both cases. I most of the time I'm very individualistic. I always follow my own path. I always do things my own way. I always think for myself. I really like hearing about Socrates in the debates and stuff like that. But I sometimes also get, like, if I'm feeling lonely or sad, or sometimes I see value in communities. I want to be close to people. I want to understand other people, and I want to be understood by other people. But I still see, I guess, I don't know. It's hard to explain. On one level, I see the value of being connected with people, on being communal. But on another level, I see, it's this duality. It's this duality that we can't solve because we are just monkeys. I don't know what to say.
Yeah, that's okay. I got something from you. Yeah, I think part of um, the way I look at what you talked about is like, you can't. You say like it's hard to explain. I stand with you on that because I think like the fulfillment you get from community and those kind of things are more elemental, and they don't make logical sense. I totally agree. I think like in my eyes, like hugging people doesn't make sense because
Well, yeah, if you're a scientist,
but
you're probably looking at, hey, it activates these chemicals and this chemicals, and we have
yeah,
data that
and
shows that it's good chemicals and stuff like that.
yeah, and there's a lot of talk of that. Like lately, people think that and they think they're smart because they're like, hey, I figured it out. It's because of this chemical. So there you go. But I don't think it's really that simple either.
Yeah.
It's not entirely chemicular as much as I think it's a very impressive thing that Western science has developed that. I don't think it's entirely true. Sorry, I lost my train of thought a bit. Just kind of rambling.
It's okay, man. Take your time.
Yeah, but generally, yeah, I think those kind of things are elemental. I wanted to follow up. Do you feel like other people are like rude? Do you ever think they're maybe stupid? They like slow you down from doing things?
Dude,
How do you?
I couldn't agree more with what you said. I very often feel like people are keeping me down, and in general keeping themselves down by shutting off the possibilities that I could create for everyone, be it in business or be it in just generally interacting with people and stuff like that. I always feel like I could do more if other people didn't get in my way. That's just how I often experience things. Yeah.
Can you? Is there? Could you possibly describe how you feel like they get in your way, or what you generally would consider them getting in your way?
Okay, I really didn't think about this for a long time, so it might take a bit for me to wrap my head around this. Okay.
And even if you don't, even if it's like annoying or boring, we could just skip. You can.
It's fun. Yeah. It's fun. It doesn't happen recently as often. I used to be very limited by my family and by my friends that I interacted with. Yeah, and I don't want to get into politics, but some of it is regulations that I often see some medicines on Alibaba that are illegal that I could get for a couple of pennies and basically distributes to resell to people and cure a lot of people. My sister has epilepsy that's drug resistant. I could order some hemp-based cure and thing. But I don't want to get into politics right now because I've been talking about it for too long. Last few days here.
Okay.
Yeah, but I don't know. I just feel like I don't want to sound like I'm full of myself or like I'm rude or mean, but I just feel like there are some people who are just on a more primitive level. Like they are very impulsive. They are very stubborn. It's hard to reason with them, and they will often limit your capacity to act in the world in various ways, with expressing yourself or creating some value in the world. Yeah. So,
do you think you can distinguish between the people who are not primitive and primitive, or people who could potentially be helpful to you and people who you can't communicate with?
I don't think that I have a foolproof method for distinguishing between people, but I have like a general intuition that so far seems reliable. In my experience.
Okay. I see. So it sounds to me, and correct me if I'm mistaken, but it seems to me the things that you feel like hold you back are kind of the things that are like really large scale, worldwide sort of crises and just abuse of power and meddling, controlling and rigging that is it's too loud, it's too large to speak against, or but it's too big for it to hear you. It's just it's life, and sometimes it's just life getting in the way. It's just some people need to do a certain thing, you can't control it. So it seems more like it's large scale world thing than just people around you so much slowing you down.
Yeah, that's definitely the root of it. Yeah.
Okay, and would you say your interest in politics generally
Stems from
is
that.
kind of based around trying to like alleviate that experience?
Yeah, we basically unintentionally just pretty well described how I became what I am today, how I ended up having views that I have today.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me think. What do you? I had somewhere to go with this, but it just slipped. I haven't slept in a long time, so sorry.
You know, if you feel like you have to go to sleep, you know,
No.
don't let me hold you back.
I don't really get sleepy. Like my whole life.
Really?
I don't know why. My whole life, I have never slept well. I think that's pretty dangerous. But
That's interesting. So how often do you how many hours of sleep? What's the longest amount of time you've gone without sleep?
probably I think there was one time I did 30 or so hours. Not actually a lot.
That's not a lot, yeah.
The thing is usually for me, falling asleep is a very difficult task. So the slightest bit of anxiety, which you just have in life, you can't rid your life of anxiety entirely. That is enough to ruin my sleep. And usually one recurring theme is that even when I manage to sleep with a bit of anxiety, I encounter a new period of difficulty, like a new depression, a new anxiety that'll ruin my sleep again. It almost feels like I'm battling like a demon that wants to ruin my sleep. It's been like that my whole life.
Dude,
It's very strange.
that sucks. Yeah. When does it happen? What stops it?
Like what causes it?
Yeah, do you know what is the cause of this?
It changes every time. It's a different type of depression. That's something I've always had. It's like in every period of my life, there's some sort of mental frustration or depression that takes control of me. And I'm scared that like when I get older, I discover it's really just one thing that just popped out at different points in different forms. But as a baby, I slept okay, and I'm healthy. My brother sleeps like crazy. He can sleep. He can wake up and go back to sleep. I can't do that at all.
That's interesting. Did you take any medicine for this or any?
My mother never let me be put on any form of medication for mental, cognitive, or any sort of affliction like that, and I'm kind of thankful for that, because in America it's pretty bad. They put people on SSRIs, and as a child, I believe that can actually hurt you. But very recently I started taking melatonin, and it doesn't really feel natural. And there was one time I took it and my anxiety really shot up, and it was, even the melatonin couldn't do anything. Yeah.
You should. I don't know, man. If you
should become an alcoholic.
yeah, like me, become drunk again. But
it helps with my anxiety. It would help with my sleep. Yeah, alcohol is very tempting.
Yeah.
I hate the way it tastes, but it could solve my problems, man. It could solve.
I used to, before I went to when I was in high school, I used to always get a little bit drunk before the day started. Like literally in the morning, I would just take a shot of whiskey and go, and
Yeah, there you go.
it would be pretty cool. It was like pretty tense. I was usually super tense in school. Super, I felt very uncomfortable in groups of large groups of people in classrooms and stuff like that. But when I get a little bit drunk, then
it goes away.
It's just fun. Yeah.
Yeah. I tend to find that among my Western friends. So like where I'm from, people are like naturally more open, naturally more warm. But my Western friends, when they get drunk, they become more like me. It's pretty interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, here when people are drunk, they're super open, super friendly. They always hug everyone. They always dance with everyone. They sing. Very jolly environment.
Where do you live?
Croatia.
Croatia. Okay.
Yeah, but it's gone now since everything's closed all the time.
Right. Yeah.
So I wanted to ask something else, but I forgot.
What I was thinking.
Oh yeah, do you take any? What age did your anxiety start?
That's tough. I would say from as long as I've been able to do free thinking, capable of free thought, I think pretty bad. I remember as a child, even when I was very young, I talked about very abstract philosophical things, which I don't think was entirely good for me. And part of me wants to blame like my because my father was very philosophical. I want to like blame it was him, he did it to me, but I don't think, I think I inherited it from him, if anything. But since I was a young child, I had very disturbing things. Like every night when I was like 3, maybe 4 to like 6, I would have I would imagine my family was captured by like a demon, and I would have to and I would practice begging that demon to not kill me or to free my family. And every night I would find a new way to beg, or what would I do if I really had to beg. And it's interesting, I never thought about maybe I could devise a weapon to kill this demon. It was always like, what's the best way to beg? And these kind of disturbing thoughts have just kind of been with me throughout my whole life. Intrusive thoughts, thoughts you don't really want to have, but they come to you, like OCD. But I think like in like high school is when I was like, okay, I have generalized anxiety disorder, probably. Yeah. And I don't have any terrible trauma either. Like my childhood wasn't bad. I wasn't like hurt or beat. My parents never really hit me. I didn't get bullied either. But
Okay. Yeah.
I imagine you deal with some anxiety because you said you would drink in the beginning of the day.
Yeah, I also had some weird night terrors and anxiety attacks when I was a kid in the middle of the night. It's again, I can't explain how exactly it felt. I can't just convey it in words.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then I also had social anxiety in school. Ever since I started going, even in kindergarten, I was just super uncomfortable and super awkward and super self-conscious all the time. And then I started doing those synthetic marijuana stuff. I did some other stuff, I don't remember what. So then I had, I don't know if you know about it. It's depersonalization, derealization disorder.
I had that.
Yeah, I had it for like 3 years. It was horrible. It was
Wow.
really bad. What was it like for you?
I didn't. I had it for maybe half a year. It's just as they just. It's hard to describe, but I would say it's like autopilot. You don't really. You get to watch. You're just inside like a camera. You just watch yourself live life. You don't really. Yeah. Is that what it was like for you? What did it feel like?
For me, it was like a massive shift in visual and auditive perception, and yeah, it was. I don't know. I just constantly felt like I was in some very intense dream. You know, I would just walk around perfectly normal sunny day, but inside I would feel like it's the most intense moment. Just it was
Wow.
overwhelming. Just
Like
really,
sensory overload.
yeah.
Yeah.
I would go like this. I would plug my ears and hide all the light source that was too bright, and because I would get these episodes of like time slowing down. I would see a car passing by and
Wow.
it would just really mess up my brain. For some reason, it would be normal, and then like,
Wow.
and I didn't feel, my body was here, but I felt like I was still here. Okay, but my body was here. And I was like, I was
Wow.
lagging. It's like I had ping
Just
500 in real life.
Yeah.
It was so fucking weird. I just didn't feel like I was
That's
where my body
crazy.
is. That's
Wow.
and it just kept happening for like 3 years. It's so fucking annoying. I'm not 100% cured right now, but I just learned to ignore it. At first, it was like the scariest fucking shit. It was just I was like, I'm never going to be normal again. I'm never going to be able to have a normal life. I'm going to be perma stoned forever. It's going to be like hell forever.
Do you think it had to do with using synthetic marijuana?
Yeah, that's how it started. That
Okay.
my friend was like, dude, keep smoking, keep holding it in, keep holding it in. I was like, still nothing, keep holding it in, and yeah, I was holding in the and I just fainted. I just fainted on the bench, and all this massive tunnel of colors started flowing right past me. I was like falling through through a spiraling rainbow of pixels, and but at first time stopped. First thing I saw was time stopped. I was watching my friend who was going like ha 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 ha. He was leaning backwards laughing, and all of a sudden he was like, and I was like, dude, did I just fucking freeze time? What the fuck is going on? And then I noticed that I can't really move my body, and then
Wow.
everything went black, and that then that's when I realized that I was actually like this on the bench, and just all these colors started flowing through. And ever since, I haven't really felt like I'm in my own body completely. I just never again felt completely normal. It's just so strange.
That's I think. Yeah, that's very bizarre. First of all, that's crazy. But on top of that, that's kind of, I think it's like the consequence of consciousness is sometimes you feel like you tarnish your consciousness, or you do something strange happens, and it never really goes back. You never really get back what you've had, but you can almost get used to it and feel like it's your new self, almost, even though you long for the past self. But that's very bizarre to me that you experienced that.
It's
I'm
so crazy, man. There's actually a movie about this. It's not exactly the same as what I had, but they made a movie called Numb, right?
no.
I don't know what year it came out. The guy from Friends is the main character.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't know what's his name. He was in Friends.
Okay. Yeah. I see that.
Did you find the movie? Yeah,
Yeah.
2007. Yeah, it's basically like this. Yeah, it's kind of like this. I kept having these, they kind of show these episodes that you get from this. I don't know if it was like this for you, but this movie roughly conveys what it was like for me. So yeah.
Okay. Mine was definitely milder because mine was anxiety induced. And I really liked what you said about how it's like it being in a stupid dream, things were like absurd. The most simple things were so silly to me. Yeah,
Yeah,
I had that.
I had like this, I remember about 5 years ago or 8 years ago when something was it. I was like staring at this bottle, and I was like, it just doesn't look like bottles used to look before all this happened. It just looks
Yeah,
real. It just looks way too real, way too real. It's
too
like
real.
it's. I could just stare at things for hours because they would look so weird, and I was like, they are there, and I'm here, and this is real, and
This is
I
real.
can't describe how
Yeah,
completely out of my mind I was.
yeah.
I still get that sometimes, but most of the time it isn't as intense as it was for the first 3 years. Yeah.
Mm.
The only thing that's left is, I have these sticks. Sometimes I don't feel like I have sensation. I feel like this right hand is, I feel like it's my hand. I can control it, but for my left hand, it kind of feels like it's lagging behind where my left hand should be all the time. It just feels kind of weird. So
Wow.
I kind of always, I kind of always stretch and try to
Yeah.
capture that feeling, that sense of self, that sense of owning this arm, but it's never
Yeah, yeah,
fully
yeah.
there. It's so fucking weird. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's
I hope that makes
interesting.
sense.
No, no, it does. To me, it honestly sounds like you're experiencing like inevitable symptoms about yourself, but the substance has made you look at it differently. So like maybe the fact that your left hand doesn't feel like it's yours
I use
is
it less than my right hand.
because it's your non-dominant hand. So it's some of it sounds like there's this pattern where there's like tics. I have tics. We usually develop them, but it has caused you to look at it again differently, or maybe I'm entirely wrong. I have seen some videos on Spice. We call it Spice here.
I've heard of it, yeah.
K2, yeah. But yeah, wow, that's crazy. Do you regret using it?
If you asked me
Or do
3
you
years
still use it?
ago, if you asked me 3 years ago, I would have pretty much said definitely yes. But now that it's over, I'm kind of like, I have no idea. Yeah, but if you asked me 3 or 4 years ago, I would be like, definitely yes, never should have done it. It's the dumbest thing I ever did. But now I'm like, only like a fraction of a percentage of people on this planet ever experience anything like this, I think so. Because I talked to hundreds of people. I talked to hundreds of people locally who tried these things, and no one said that they experienced anything like this. So weird.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think it showed me.
That's
I
a
think I
really good
learned
outlook.
something from this. But
I
yeah,
think so.
yeah.
I think so. Yeah, that outlook. Sometimes a thing like that is hard to appreciate, but you see it, you're like, wow, that's special. Have you ever tried Salvia?
No.
Okay, so Salvia is a bit. It looks like a colorful marijuana, and it's very intense. It's a very intense dissociative psychedelic. It doesn't seem to have any after effect harm, but it is. It sounds a lot like we described. I had a friend who did it, and it's crazy. The exact thing happened where he was sitting on a like a tree that had fallen over, like on a log. There was a tree behind him, and he smoked it, and he sat there, and he said, every person turned into a clock. And then when he started looking around, everything was a small clock, all the trees, everything. And then he fell back and he hit his head. And we were all like, oh, sorry, we should have watched. We didn't know he was going to go loose, but he laid there and he just stared at us. And yeah, he said it's like the craziest thing he's ever seen.
Yeah,
so yeah,
you never tried any of those things?
No, the thing is, I love drugs, as in I'm highly fascinated by them. And I actually like to prepare drugs for my friends and dose and measure, but I have only done marijuana, alcohol, and tobacco, and nitrous oxide one time. And I only if I promise myself to never do it again. So never do it again.
Well, what was that like?
What you described very earlier about the buzzing feeling. So it started like when you smoke cigarettes, and so you get a nicotine buzz, you get that buzz in your body.
Mhm.
It was that very intense, and then slowly it turned up, and then it felt like I was only like my eyes, and like that. This is all gone. It's not like you can usually feel your arm. Like if my arm's here, I can't feel it, right? You don't feel it, but I really couldn't feel it. This time it felt like I was just my eyes and my mind, and I was like empty, like I was water or fluid. And it was very interesting, very very good, but I promised myself to never do it again. So I would recommend that as a good approach for a lot of drugs for people. If you're really afraid of a drug, do it once and promise yourself, make like a death promise to never do it again. And yeah, it might work. Yeah, nitrous, I would recommend.
It's crazy.
Yeah, drugs are very crazy.
Hey man, I have I'm usually recording when I'm on Omegle, so I have a tiny YouTube channel, basically like 10 views per video. So if it's cool with you, I think this was a really interesting conversation. So if it's cool with you, I would upload it.
Yeah, that's fine with me.
Thank you so much, man. I've been starving for content, and
Yeah.
and you've been the most interesting guy I found today.
Really? Okay, cool. Nice.
All right.
Yeah, thanks for telling me. All right, man.